So just by way of context, I'll give you a bit of introduction. We'll share with you those project summaries and then warmly invite any questions that any of you may have about those project ideas or our process. So in terms of introduction, all of you will be acutely aware of the pressure that local authorities are under as a result of COVID, and the LOTI community is particularly wanting to focus on supporting individuals whose needs have grown as a result of the pandemic. As a result, we launched a fund, the COVID Innovation Fund, offering up to £150,000 for 2 projects, so up to 75,000 each, that involved collaboration between London boroughs and supports those vulnerable Londoners. We've received 8 submissions. The deadline was midnight on Monday of this week. We've been having a read through. And today what we want to do is not give our opinion on any of them. We're still deliberating, and we're inviting public comments and questions about each of those submissions, or pointing out, are they aware of this? Can we clarify this point? And so today we just want to literally set out what the ideas are in very brief brush. And then you'll be able to access all of them if you'd like to read them in detail and add your comments or questions. Comment access is open on that Google Doc at that link, LOTI_CIF, and that's all uppercase, case sensitive URL. Please do have a look and engage with the ideas in detail if you would like to. Other bit of context just to set out before we talk through the ideas themselves. On Tuesday, some of you may have seen there was a press release from the Mayor of London announcing the intention of the Mayor's Office and the GLA to grant funds LOTI around £1 million over 2 years to support work on the digital access for all mission. So that's combating digital exclusion in London. Now we know that that funding is likely to be appearing around May. It's a second opportunity for some of the ideas we'll share with you today do involve digital inclusion or tackling digital exclusion. If it's not possible for us to support them in the immediate term, there may well be that second chance before too long once that funding is confirmed. So good news for everyone who's working on digital inclusion, and we'll share more details as soon as we have them, probably at a future show and tell very soon. For now, though, what we're going to do, we're going to run through each of the 8 ideas, just give you a very high-level summary. We'll then have a Q&A at the end, and there may be 1 or 2 people from the project teams themselves on the call today. So if they have anything to add when we get to that Q&A section, or like to respond to any questions, they'd be very welcome. In that case, let's just talk through these 8 ideas, and I'm going to start by just sharing the first 2. The first one has been presented by Waltham Forest, and essentially the intention is to set out to create a jobs introduction portal. And you'll see on the left here, it's developing a matchmaking service for local businesses looking for services within their community, that business to business connection, or freelancers or local people looking for employment. You'll be aware that lots of boroughs at the moment are particularly keen to support the renewal of their high streets, given the knock that they've taken during the COVID pandemic, and also to support those who are out of work. And with a rising interest right across the UK of sort of keep it local type initiatives, this initiative seems to be trying to help make sure that where there are those who are looking for work, they're able to find local opportunities, and businesses with opportunities to offer local unemployed can be connected much more easily. So they're proposing a research stage followed by an alpha stage to develop a low-code, quick solution to create that matchmaking solution and to signpost to opportunities elsewhere if they're not available locally. Second idea was also proposed by Waltham Forest, and this is a playbook for bricks and mortar businesses on how to transform their offering online. And again, you'll see the description on the left, really about providing much more granular advice and support for businesses, some of whom just need the simple stuff like how to use sort of Google products to conduct their business, setting up a website, doing online deliveries, and so on. What we notice here in the context, I guess, from a LOTI interest point of view is digital exclusion, we know, is not just affecting individuals, it also affects businesses. And again, with the real push to online that we've seen recently, we want to make sure that as many London businesses as possible are able to conduct their business online. I think we're really interested to see how this kind of project addresses gaps. We know there's plenty of resources out there, but we know also, we hear from boroughs that a lot of businesses still don't feel they know where to look for the best advice and support. With these two Waltham Forest projects, we know the borough is interested in hearing from other local authorities who are interested in supporting these two initiatives. So again, if that's you, please do leave a comment in the chat or let us know during the Q&A. Next idea, I think I'm handing over to my colleague Gente.
Yes, thank you. So the next project idea is the Community Makers project, as you can see on the slide. And this project will test the use of more creative and engaging forms of community connections, particularly for people suffering from dementia who we know have been particularly affected by social isolation and exclusion during the pandemic. The project will seek to establish user-friendly, digitally inclusive communities and meeting places designed specifically for dementia sufferers. The project will seek more specifically to equip community groups with the right skills and knowledge to provide these digitally inclusive services. And the project is proposed to be conducted in 3 phases. Phase 1 will aim to establish the needs and also the opportunities for rethinking community support for dementia sufferers. In phase 2, there will be a testing. Phase 2 will be a testing phase where community group leaders will be supported to design things like virtual day centers or community makers activity programs using all the toolkits and resources that have already been made available. And just to emphasize at this point that the Community Makers program is an existing initiative which this project will draw heavily on. I think on that note, I'm passing to my colleague Onyeka.
I think it might even be me for this next one. No, that's right. So this next one is about, well, it's from Barnet, Brent, Kingston and Chelsea and Westminster. Oh, so Kensington and Chelsea and Westminster. And it's a playbook to equip both professionals and volunteers to meet the digital exclusion needs of specific vulnerable groups. And again, I know a lot of boroughs have been trying to work up more specific personas around who needs support right now. And I think this project will obviously plan to do a discovery on that, but initially interested in cohorts such as older people, adult social care day users, residents with health needs, adults and children with learning disabilities, some SMEs as well. And the problem seems to be is that we know there's lots of different types of training and support services out there. It's not always easy to find details about them. Where there are great initiatives, they're sort of imperfectly shared across London. So in part trying to figure out how do we pull together the best advice available. It would build on work. Some of you may be aware of the MHCLG funded work by Croydon and Leeds to create the Digital Inclusion Toolkit, really great website with lots of resources. And this particular work, the aspiration is to build on some really interesting upcoming pilots, some by Age UK, who are going to be working with residents who don't have access to a device or connectivity or may not have high levels of digital skills, from daycare centres who are providing devices, connectivity and digital skills to day centre service users, some work by the NHS and the CCGs, providing devices to individuals who have a particular health need. And finally, some digital champion pilots, which is working with frontline workers across different areas of the council to support residents. So lots of different models for providing digital inclusion training for addressing their needs. This project seems to be trying to pull those together, building a lot of work by these boroughs themselves as well, to make it much easier for London boroughs to provide best-in-class service to their residents. Over to Jay.
Yeah, so This is another project which is in the high street recovery space proposed by Brent and Lambeth. It builds on some of the work that's already been done at the GLA and is ongoing at the GLA around high street recovery, and building on some of the data sources they've made available to boroughs to use. There's a couple of ideas in this project. One of them is around taking that data that's already there, expanding those data sets and generating more intelligence to understand what's happening on high streets, so that resources, support and information can be provided to those businesses to help them engage with residents in the new era, in the new normal. There is also a proposal to test some of the existing tools, platforms and apps that are available to connect residents with local businesses in their areas to support those businesses. So the idea is to understand which of those apps and technologies are most effective at doing that. And finally, there's a proposal to develop a tool that will help councils make decisions around which high streets need support and what types of interventions and services might be targeted to those high streets. And yeah, next one we've got here, this one's proposed by Barnet, Brent, Kensington and Chelsea, Southwark and Westminster. This project is around identifying digital exclusion again. This is about using the data that is available and augmenting that data with new data sets to build a better picture of what's happening in London around digital exclusion. It builds on work that's already been conducted at Westminster and builds on their existing map and personas. The proposal here suggests enhancing the work on those personas, doing some quantitative and qualitative research to understand the nuances around digital exclusion in the boroughs, and then being able to use those new personas to enhance the existing Westminster map, and then enabling the other borough partners to develop a map of their own using those personas and the existing insights from the Westminster map. The outputs then include maps for each borough, toolkit for other boroughs to build their own maps, and new work and research on digital exclusion personas. Now, this project is actually put together by a group of councils who've put in 2 bids. So the next bid is from the same group, and it intends to build on the outputs from the project I just described. So using that research and that data on personas that has been generated in this first project as a base. The idea here is to build a digital hub which will act as a one-stop shop for both practitioners, councils, VCS partners, those delivering services, to coordinate service delivery and to understand the map of services across London and identify gaps, but also to have a resident front end so that those people looking for services have one place to go to look for those types of services. Additional output here is to build a playbook based on based on the personas identified in the first project. So understanding what interventions are most suited for each of those types of personas, and including those resources on this virtual hub.
Thanks, Jay. And I think the last one is Gente.
This next project, led by Newham and Hackney, will seek to test whether social prescribing approaches for supporting residents whose needs have grown as a result of the pandemic lead to better outcomes for residents. This project will build heavily on existing work in each of the boroughs, and the social prescribing approach will be underpinned by better working within the local authorities, but also better working with the VCS. And all of this enabled by simple tech, training, etc., to not only improve those collaboration, those links with the VCS and with other services within the council, but also to improve the number and quality of referrals and this kind of speaks to that overall aim of the project, which is to support residents as early as possible to avoid their needs exacerbating further. So in terms of tangible outputs, this project will look to develop a cross-borough partnership and cross-borough working, training and skills development, but also it will test the use of very simple technology to make this all happen.
Thanks, Gente. So I think what we're really pleased about is all of these ideas have got some really, really strong aspects to them. We'd be excited to be involved in all of them, frankly. And I think where there's a smarter use of data, we see there trying to a lot on sharing knowledge and developing knowledge as a community rather than doing it individually. And in some areas, prototyping and trialing entire new approaches of sharing the experiment about what works. And so really excited to be looking at these projects and what their potential might be. Just to very quickly say, our next steps are going to be to follow up with those project teams if we have specific questions about their ideas. We will share them with our key representatives from each LOTI borough on Wednesday when we get them together for our monthly all-member meeting. And the intention is that the LOTI team will inform boroughs which have been able to be successful for this first round of funding by the end of day on Friday this week. On that point, I will stop talking and just ask, does anyone have any questions either about the process or about any of those particular project ideas? Feel free to raise a hand or pop it in the chat. Just whilst I see if any are coming through there, in the meantime, warmly invite you, as we said, do check out that project link. You can find the quick link at the top here, at that bit.ly link. Just remember, it's case sensitive when it loads. There we go. Please do have a look, and if you'd like to add comments or questions, or had you heard about this related initiative, that kind of information is very helpful for both us and I'm sure for the project teams themselves. It sounds like there's no specific questions for now, so unless anyone wishes to shout, thank you very much for attending today. Please do share and have a look at that document, and we look forward to welcoming you back for next week's show and tell, same time next week. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.